All right, guys, Rozenstruik versus Overeem. I got to tell you, this is an interesting match. And one of the reasons I want to bring you this, I have been stunned how many people don't know who Rozenstruik is. It's just, that surprised me. Considering he's a heavyweight, considering he's a good looking guy, considering he's a fresh talent, meaning a little bit of a newer face. Oh, by the way, considering he knocks people out cold. There's a reason this guy that people don't know who he is headlining a UFC on ESPN. One thing about him, Rozenstruik, I'm going to condescend to you as though you just don't know who he is. One thing about him is if he hits you in the face, you go to sleep. The guy's undefeated. Now, I think from what he's shown that he's a better boxer than he is anything else. I don't see a ton of grappling from him. I don't see the great Muay Thai with the knees and the elbows and the kicks. I see a really good Western boxer with extremely powerful hands. I mean, in many ways, you could make comparisons to, say, Ngannou's skill set. Where, yeah, Ngannou can fight you everywhere on the feet. He practices everything. But when it's time to go, he's right here, right? He's fisticuffs, for sure. Rozenstruik offers that. Now, here's the bad news for Rozenstruik. He's taken on a 3-time K1 champion. That's the bad news. Overeem on paper is the superior striker, and on paper is more diverse and dynamic. The bad news for Overeem is just simply at the heavyweight class, if you get hit on the chin by a guy with power, you're going to sleep. You've got to hide that chin. You got to roll with it. To bring the Francis Ngannou back as an example, Francis went out. He was able to land that big shot. I mean, Overeem, as great as he is, he's just a human being. Those are only 4-ounce gloves. And the reason I point that out is if we're to look at paper, we've got a striking contest here. We got a power striker in Rozenstruik, and we've got a little bit more technical, move around, experienced, polished striker in Overeem. But some of that polishedness only pays off in the later minutes and in the later rounds. Some of that right out of the gate. Some of that first 2 to 3 to 4 minutes does come down to power. It does come down to if Overeem is kick heavy as opposed to punch heavy, it's a different deal. How many great kickboxers have we seen come out and they get starched fast by somebody that isn't even close to as decorated as them? Well, most of them came out kick heavy. You don't want to do that. You could do that in Muay Thai. With the big 16-ounce glove, you can come out and start doing some of the teeps, the 9s, the 10s, the head kicks, the body. You can start doing that. The gloves are different. Your ability to take a shot is different. The defense is different. I mean, in Muay Thai, if you guys ever watch it, when those guys do the big gloves on, they want to defend a punch, they just put their chin down and hold both hands up. Let the guy get tired of punching. Boom, that's over. That doesn't work in MMA. You got to get out of the way. You got to block. You got to be firing back at all times. You can't just stand here and do this. Guy hits you with a double. Guy knees you in the gut. A lot of different options. Guy comes up and clinches. It just doesn't work. Only reason I point that out is some of the striking is different. And when you're looking at a more polished striker like Overeem, wouldn't it be bad for him to move around a little bit? Wouldn't it be bad for him to use some of those straight oblique kicks that I think he learned from spending time at Jackson Wink? Wouldn't it be bad for him to just get a couple of minutes down, take a little of that energy away? Rozenstruik does appear to be a guy. He's going to give us the answer in the first 5 minutes. You're going to have your answer in the first round. Whoever wins the first round is likely to win the contest. And for Rozenstruik to win the round, he's probably going to have to hurt Reem, and he's probably going to have to put him down. I think Reem very easily, with the right strategy, can avoid that. Can get some of those minutes, get some of that sweat going, get his hands on him a couple of times, take a little bit of that power away. But if he doesn't, right? If he doesn't, and even though this is a main event and this is scheduled for 5 rounds, I don't think any of us reasonably expect 25 minutes out of these guys. In some ways, and I need to be fair here, as much as I have been impressed with Rozenstruik, and as much as I see his record and I see his build, I saw his last contest live against Andrei Arlovski, a former world champion. When I see these things and I see him putting world champions down in the first round, boom, he's going to get my attention. The other side of the coin, I don't know enough about him to give you guys a full X's and O's. I've drawn some conclusions here based on what I've seen. But he does kind of remind me in some ways of an old school Vitor Belfort. Do you guys remember that? Were you around If you weren't and you're a hardcore fan, you want to get educated, you cannot be a hardcore fan and not know about Vitor Belfort. Vitor was the most exciting. Vitor was the scariest. Vitor was the fastest fighter the world had ever seen at the time the world first got to see him. And I do not offer you that with any kind of exaggeration. It was stunning to see an athlete that could do what a 19-year-old Vitor Belfort could do. Now, if you went and watched it today and you compared it to today's skills, sure, maybe he's going to blend in the pack. But back then, whoa, he was off the chart. So Randy Couture has to fight him. Got to fight this guy that's real boxing heavy, real fast, real powerful. All Randy did is get his hands on him. And anytime they'd break away, Randy get his hands on him again. And he would just pull on the back of his neck. And once he pulled and he couldn't pull anymore, he'd start pushing him. And once he pushed and couldn't push anymore, he'd start pulling him again. But what that did in a very short period of time, I'm talking about 3, 4, 4.5 minutes, it just wore Vitor down. All of a sudden, those punches in terms of the power and the speed are no longer a factor in terms of their power and their speed. There wasn't a lot of strength left. There wasn't a lot of speed left because as the endurance goes down, those are the first two things that go down. That was Randy's strategy. I know that Overeem doesn't have that same skill set in terms of the 20 years of world-class wrestling that Randy Couture brought in the ring against Vitor Belfort, but I would offer for you the concept is still the same. To burn some minutes. Let Rozenstruik wear down just a little bit. There's nothing wrong, even with a great and a tough guy like Overeem. Overeem doesn't like to flinch from anybody. There's nothing wrong, it's not a flinch, to move around a little bit, to use some of those kicks, to eat up a little clock, then start to make your attacks. That's what I believe Overeem is going to do. But I will also tell you, Rozenstruik, boom, one time,